I mean, it's absolutely laughable what the media has portrayed of him, and everyone believes it.
Well, who's the guy they executed? Why didn't he come kicking and screaming, saying, wait a minute, I may have been the double, but I'm not him?
Because he's programmed to believe that he was him. That's what programming is about. There are alters in each individual that come out as personalities that may be totally different to the original personality. This person that they portrayed as Saddam Hussein, if you look at his picture and his facial features and compare it to the pictures of 30 years ago, it's not the same person.
Well, things change on your body after a while.
But there are still ways, police have forensics that can age a child that was kidnapped 30 years ago and show as an adult. Same thing, they can take that picture and say what this person should look like at the current time period. That's not what this person looked like.
Well, Stuart, I know what you're saying. I know what the caller is saying in terms of the manipulation in order to create events to maximize what you want to do. And there's no doubt that that is a very strong possibility in Iran, creating a case, maybe even some kind of catastrophic event in order to go in and justify an attack. I think that's all very possible. But I also think, it's bizarre. Where is Osama bin Laden? Why aren't we going after him? It is weird. I mean, I will give you this. Everything is not as it appears to be.
That's right. That's right. Now, with the technology that the government has, where they can pinpoint a fly crawling on your shoulder, don't you think they would know where Osama bin Laden is? Don't you think they would know where Steve Fawcett's plane is? This is all a scam on the public. This is all a delusion, a diversion from
Speaking
the real...
Steve Fawcett, our remote viewer, Ed Dames, is going to have a report for us next week, and he's sending in a crew to try to look for Steve Fawcett. He believes it's there somewhere. What does Steve Fawcett have to do with it?
Well, it's just another media event, Steve Fawcett, and it's also interesting that the same thing happened when JFK Jr.'s plane went down in Long Island Sound. Now, that's the most heavily monitored area on the face of the earth, and it took them a week to find his plane. So again, when they create a situation and they want to create a story, a cover story, they make this big drama around it, and it goes on for time and time until people finally forget about it, and then they come up with an answer, and people go, oh, so that's what happened. And then they drop the story. My opinion is Steve Fawcett staged his own disappearance for whatever his reason was, and a lot of these people do things like that, and I think they'll never find him.
Yeah, you think he's alive somewhere?
Yeah, I think so. And, why would he, a guy like that doesn't vanish without a trace, especially in an area so close to Area 51.
Well, it depends on where he went, though, Stuart. Nobody knows. The guy didn't have a flight pattern.
He wasn't supposedly going that far, and that area, Nevada, as you know, 80% of Nevada is owned by the government. That is heavily monitored. They know exactly where he went.
What do you think happened? Honestly.
I think he staged his disappearance. I think that he went somewhere else and wanted to finish his life here on Earth in a way that would be dramatic and mysterious, and then he went somewhere else with them. And that has happened before with other people.
What about his wife?
Well, people move on.
Oh, come on, Stu. You think he staged his disappearance, left his wife, just to have his own life?
That's happened before with other people.
Well, a few people, but I don't think Steve Fawcett would do it, for crying out loud. He was a multimillionaire balloonist.
But he was, if you look at these people's lives and you see what they were involved in, the story gets a little bit wider.
Well, let me ask you this. And I'm not trying to put you down. Please, you understand that. I don't do that to guests. Is there anything that is not some kind of government mind-controlled trick that's being perpetrated on us, in your mind?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the entire planet is designed to trigger people constantly. Everything on TV, everything in the stores, the food that you eat, the clothes that you wear, all of that is designed to enhance and keep the momentum of the programming going. Do you know that the United States allows 15,000 chemicals in food that they don't have to put in the label? they put.
Well, is that mind control, Stuart, or stupidity and greed?
Oh, that's not stupidity. It's brilliant what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly the effect that they want to have, and it's working. And people believe it. Most of the people out there have blinders on. People come up to me and they say, "Oh, can't we turn this around? Can't we change it?" And I said, "Yes, you can change it if people will wake up and remove their victimization and take control of their own lives. Then yes, it could change tomorrow. But is that feasible? Does it look like it's happening? No. Most people are more worried about how they're going to pay for gasoline, how they're going to pay their mortgage, if their children are going to go to school. That's what they're worried about. Most people aren't caring about who's running Iran. They don't care about what's going on in Iraq. They care about what's going on in their pocketbooks and in their homes, because they want to survive. And they've made life now so difficult and tenuous that people are worried about just getting through each day. And so they're not worried about global situations anymore. They're worried about their own lives. And that's understandable. But in order to change things, we need to become globally aware on a level that goes underneath what the media is telling us.
All right. Well, stick around and stay with us, if you would, Stuart, because we're going to make another run at in our phone calls with you. Lots of people still on hold, and they haven't gotten through yet. So we'll go with you. Don't hang up. If you've been on hold for a long time, I'll get to you when we come back in just a few moments right here on Coast to Coast AM. Stuart, generally, I'm a pretty positive person. If it's partly whatever outside, I say it's partly sunny, not partly cloudy. What can people do? Any hope here so they can at least fight back?
Absolutely, George. And, I know that sometimes I'm accused of being all doom and gloom, but let's face it, when you look out there and that's what you see, that's what you got to talk about. But we have to remember that despite everything I've spoken about, we as a species, humanity, are responsible for it and need to take responsibility. Because with the victimization mind patterns that I've spoken about before, we attract tyrants and oppressors that fulfill our low self-worth, our need for being put down, because humanity does have that kind of a thought pattern. So if we all collectively and individually work on ourselves and start to reintegrate our own mind patterns and take control of our own minds and lives, then these people cannot have control over us, and it can all end and go away. And I know I make it sound simple, but it really can be, as long as we make an effort to do that. Most of the work that I do these days is in helping people reintegrate and gain control of their minds and their bodies again, to deprogram from the mind control, to purge from the toxins that they're taking in their bodies. So yes, there's hope, and it starts with each one of us. And I don't believe in fighting. I don't believe in wars or upheavals. I think that the attack has to be from within us. We need to go in and remove the artificial elements that have been put in us and take control of ourselves once again.
Okay, let's go to these calls. Wildcard line, you're on Coast to Coast with us. Hi there.
Hi.
Yes,
this
sir.
is Mark from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay, Mark, thank you for calling.
No problem. Love the show. I just want to ask Stuart for a comment on something. I mean, he mentioned before about mind programming in the military done in the Vietnam era. I was wondering about it happening now still. I have two family members just got back from the Army, and it just seems like they're two completely different people now. I mean, their whole outlook has changed. They're more aggressive. They have, I guess the best way to describe it is like a blind patriotism. I mean, they think they was in Iraq, fighting for freedom in America and thinking Iraq was behind 9/11. It just seems like with the thoughts they had before got completely morphed, and I was just wanting to hear his comments on that.
All right.
Thank you, Mark, and you made a very good point there, and a lot of people have said the same thing to me. And as I mentioned earlier, I have a lot of clientele in the military and even in the Border Patrol at the current moment, and so I know what's going on in those locations. Yes, they are brainwashing and mind-controlling the people, the service people in Iraq. If you remember, not long ago, there was a soldier who kind of went berserk and he started to shoot at his own people in his own unit and then tried to commit suicide. Suicides are very high